All right, Zera Shimshon, Parshas Miketz. So a person has to keep in mind that the Torah is alive. Meaning, don't just look at the stories that happen and the Torah is happening 3,000, 4,000 years ago, and that's what happened then, and they don't necessarily play out again in our world. Do not think this way, okay? Because if you want to know the solution to any problem like that's going on in the world or what's going to happen in the future, it's all in the Torah. It's all there for us. We have a saying that's called a Maisa Avos Simun Labanim. Okay, that which happened to our fathers is going to re-happen again, and it's supposed to be something that we're supposed to pay attention to as the children. So how can we see that in this week's Parsha? So Zer Shimshon asks an interesting question. We know that Yosef was sent down to Mitzrayim for whatever Aveira he might have committed. Some say that he spoke Lashon Hara about his brothers, and that he had to go there, Gezeres HaMelech of HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent him down there to cleanse himself. And he spent time as a slave, and he spent time in jail. Okay. And then we know the conclusion of the story that Yosef Atzadik gets elevated to the point that he becomes the viceroy, almost the king of Egypt, the second to Paro. So Zer Shimshon asks a very Zer Shimshon type question, a question that is a great question, and I just like most people don't ask questions like this, which is that it makes sense, the story up to a certain point. Committed some sort of sin, had to suffer for a certain amount of time for that type of sin. And then after that, what should happen? Well, if somebody goes to jail, they get let out and they just go home, right? That's it. Why was it that Hashem arranged it that Yosef would then be elevated to being the viceroy? Meaning it sounds like this is a reward for him. But like, why does he need a reward? All he needs is his sin to be gone and like cleaned. That's enough of a reward for a person like Yosef Atzadik. So he should just now be free and live his life normally. Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu choose to elevate him to the viceroy? He even uses a terminology called tarta de satri, meaning like it's like something that contradicts. Did Yosef sin? And if he sinned, then he should just go free. Or was Yosef like good? Like meaning that he got rewarded to be the viceroy, then he should have never been in jail to begin with. Things don't really make sense, he says. So the answer, he says, is that Yosef is a remez. He is a simon, just like everything in our Jewish past is a remez and a simon for us. And here's the thing, if you would have been in Yosef's brain, he didn't need to become viceroy. He didn't need a reward, meaning he was actually probably happy. Being such a high-level tzaddik, he was happy that he was receiving yisurin, pain in this world, because that's pain that he doesn't have to suffer in the next world to get rid of his sins. So he would have been totally happy in the jail. And the day he got out, he would have been happy also. And he didn't need any reward. He didn't need anything behind that. Yosef didn't need that. But here's the thing. Yosef is a precedent. Okay? So think about it like this. This idea of Ma'aseh Avosim Labanim was already known to the Jews while we were slaves in Egypt. And when we were slaves in Egypt, we were saying, well, we need a precedent for this because we want to see how it ends and if there's any purpose to it. So the Jews would have said, well, when was the last time before we were slaves in Egypt that a Jew was like a slave in Egypt? Well, they'd been like Yosef Atzadik. Okay? And so if it would have just been that Yosef went down to Mitzrayim and then after, how many every years he's in jail, then he just gets freed and can go home. Well, it might be hard for somebody to understand just by looking at it like that his suffering was actually for his benefit and was good for him and not just a waste of how many years he was in jail. That might be hard to the naked eye to discern that. Now, Yosef would have been able to discern that, but not everybody was on his level. Especially, we're talking about Klal Yisrael and slaves, they were on the 49th level of Tumah. So Kadosh Baruch Hu purposely elevated Yosef to the viceroy so that it would be nicker, discernible to all future generations, that when we go down to Gullus or to Mitzrayim, look, it's not just that you suffer. It's actually for your own good. You come out better than you were before. And I'm going to make that in a tangible way that you can see that. That's why he did that to Yosef, so that it would be tangible and visible to the people in Mitzrayim so that they wouldn't give up hope. And they would say, just like Yosef went down and was a slave and came out on top, so too that's going to happen to us. So don't give up hope. And that's exactly what happened when Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim. They left with money, and they left with they ended up getting the Torah and Eretz Yisrael. So the same thing It's like comparable to what happened with Yosef, that he ends up on top. Now, this also applies to us, okay? And this is a big lesson for us. So when we are in Galus and we suffer, it's for whatever Avera we're suffering for. Just like Yosef, when he went down, it was for Lashon Hara, and when Bnei Yisrael went down to Mitzrayim, there's many opinions for why we went down, and for whatever sorrows we're experiencing right now, which we are experiencing, unfortunately, there is some reason for that. However, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, just look at the past. The Torah is alive. That's your guidebook. If you want to know how it ends, just look at the Torah. How did it end for Yosef? It ended with Yosef becoming the viceroy. How did it end for the Dor HaMidbar? It ended up with them getting the Torah and becoming wealthy. So why would we think we're any different? They are us. We are them. They are our forefathers. They are our DNA. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that's why I put the Torah in the world, so that you can realize that. Don't give up hope. So when this conflict ends, it's not just going to go back. We're not going back. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to arrange it that we just go back to the way things were before it began. That's not what's going to happen. Okay, we are going to come out. I don't know if that means Mashiach. I don't know. I can't tell you the particulars of what that means, but we are going to be in a better place than we have ever been before this. So we just have to get through it. We can't give up hope. That's the idea. That's why Hashem put certain precedents so that we would not give up hope. So don't give up hope. Keep davening, keep learning Torah. Everything will be fine, and we will end up in a better, stronger place than we've ever been before. Yasher koach.